Good evening, everybody. This is July 22nd, 2021, and this is Beyond the Buzzer Live here on Facebook Live, YouTube, and multimedia different platforms. Anywhere you can hear the sound of my voice. For the next hour and a half, myself and the man to the right of me, my compadre, my tag team partner, my axe to my smash, the animal to my hawk, also my three-point conversion colleague, college football writer Kyle Nash. We'll talk about all things sports on a hilarious and different type of level, also providing you insight and everything else in between. So, Kyle, what's going on, my friend?
Hey, man, there's a lot going on tonight. We got a hell of a party coming in here. We got four perspectives tonight. At some point, we will be hitting the AFC South, and I know some of our fans in particular be excited about that division in the NFL overall. It's going to be a heck of a party. You know, we'll get into it at some point soon, but I know Danny's itching to wrap up the NBA as he does his thing around the association. So let's kick it off, bro.
Big shout out to our good friends at Valor at itsvalor.us, over the top hand corner of Kyle's right hand shoulder. Also check them out for all things marketing. And also, if you're down in Miami for the Rolling Loud convention, yes, I did say a Rolling Loud concert down in Miami. If you're going out there, give a big extra cheer for DJ Venoms and his entire set, because that's also brought to you by Valor. So not only do they do gifts and music, they also get people inside of Rolling Loud. They do a bit of everything. Speaking of things that do a bit of everything, well, guess what? Giannis did a little bit of everything.
Nice transition. I like it.
Giannis did a bunch of things on Tuesday night, and the NBA season is officially over for now until the draft next week. But this is Giannis and company's first championship, Kyle. The Milwaukee Bucks have won a championship in 50 years. A lot of things happened in 50 years. The Panthers had a winning football season in 50 years.
We're going to do that already? Okay.
I mean, you have to look at, what's happened the last 50 years. We had multiple wrestling federations. Jake Delhomme was driving around in a Pacer, whatever you want to call it, doing Bojangles commercials.
Jake Delhomme. You see, is Rodney even in the chat yet?
Listen, Clemson was up and down. Notre Dame actually had relevant football. There's a lot of things that happened in the last 50 years.
Oh, boy.
But
is safe tonight from Danny Thompson, ladies and gentlemen.
But you know what, though? In all retrospect, the Milwaukee Bucks winning the NBA championship in 6 games over the Phoenix Suns in a very, very entertaining series. And Kyle, listen, and the reason why this topic is called "Is this the beginning of Buck Dynasty?" Not Duck Dynasty, but Buck Dynasty.
That's right. Fear the dare, fools.
Yeah, it's fear the deer, because here's the thing with the Bucks. As we learned last year, they signed Drew Holiday to a 5-year extension.
Oh, yeah.
Chris Middleton is under a long-term extension, and Giannis signed his 5-year extension that's going into effect right now. Kyle, they have their big three.
They do.
It's a different type of big three. But you have the superstar. You have I don't know what you want to call Giannis at this point. The utility man, Superman. I mean, Shaq called him Superman. You have Giannis. You have Chris Middleton, who's arguably one of the best 3-and-D players in the league. And Drew Holiday, if he's not scoring, he's shutting you down. With this team, these guys are all locked in. We all know how good Brooklyn is. But Kyle, after what we watched in the last 6 games, is this the beginning of Buck Dynasty in the NBA?
It's hard for me to really embrace and wrap my hands around that. Before I get into it, they did the great job of proving me correct and actually starting the series at Game 5, just like it said it would be. What's going on, Cortland? I'm glad you could check in while you're covering the ACC Media Day, brother, man. That's really awesome that you're out there for the 3-point conversion with our dude, controversy Raphael Haynes there. So shout to to our very own 3-point conversion, man. Good to hear from you there for sure.
Speaking of Raphael, he did celebrate a birthday the other day. I think he turned 174 years old. All right, continue.
No. It's 163. Anyways, but
sponsored by Prune Juice. But continue.
Yeah.
Metamucil. Right.
Oh no.
Back to the Bucks.
Who's his sponsor? It depends. Anyways, so I hope someone got that joke. Anyways, no, but getting back to it, like they were the ones that won the first game off road to actually start the series from my perspective, right? They do have the big three. I see D Will checking in. Good to hear from you that they may not have enough to pay anybody else necessarily, but there's also a lot of other things that I would like to account for as well, right? Like for one, This was a very unique playoffs. A lot of people got hurt, and a lot of fates changed based on that, right? I know everyone's going to point out LeBron and the Lakers. That's not even the first one I'd go to, right? How much weird stuff went on with the Clippers? How much weird stuff went on even facing the Suns as they did? Heck, as it stood, Giannis had to overcome an injury and did so in amazing fashion. Chris Middleton came off the milk carton, did some amazing work. And oh, by the way, reminded us that all that he, while not as great a defender necessarily as Drew Holiday or Giannis, could be on another team their best defender. An excellent guy, both sides of the ball. I haven't give Chris Middleton enough credit that he's a two-way player when the ball is hitting the bottom of the net. But here's the thing. If they did a great job of keeping this up in the finals, if they can consistently shoot like this, I'm feeling good things. What was it that Colin Cowherd said about Giannis at the free throw? He was like Larry Bird. Okay. If I know that's a bit of an exaggeration, but if Giannis has really turned that corner and taken care of free throws, if they're really going to shoot this consistently, if Chris Middleton is going to stay off of the back of the milk carton in big situations, the playoffs, maybe. I mean, what's a dynasty exactly? Like, they have to win at least 2 championships, right? In a string of appearances at the finals. Yes.
I think you do. And to Terrell's point, great big shout out to my man Terrell stopping through tonight. It's saying they can't afford to pay anybody else. You know what? He does have a great point. The Bucks are kind of hamstring, but as we all know, if you have a winning team, you can go into the luxury tax to save players. Okay. The Bucks have won a championship, and my old theory is you run it back. We all know Bobby Portis is a free agent, and guess what? The way Bobby Portis has been playing, guess what? He's played really well. And Bobby Portis is going to get paid. And if I'm the Bucks, you got to bring Bobby Portis back. Okay. You got to bring back Brook Lopez because he's Brook Lopez. You know, and here's the thing. The Bucks won a championship with Dante DiVincenzo not even playing in the playoffs. He was injured. You know, he was the starting 2 guard. Pat Connaughton had played very well. And they have a very, very extremely talented team. Now, we all know, as you see Ted Hicks in the chat, mentioning his New Jersey Nets. And no, I was not talking about Buck Williams. Big shout out to Buck, by the way. The Nets are everybody's considered favorite because they have the 3 best players, the best big 3 in the league. But as we learned on, Tuesday night, the Bucks' big 3 might be the one thing that can stop the Nets' big 3. Because the one thing that the Bucks can do is, we talk about how great on the offensive end Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant, and James Harden is. But you have the defensive player of the year in Giannis and 2 of the most elite wing players that can guard multiple guys in Drew Holiday and Chris Middleton. We didn't get a chance to see that in that playoff series because Kyrie Irving got hurt in that series and James Harden was walking around on one leg. Mm-hmm. So we didn't get a chance to see the best offensive trio against the best defensive trio in a 7-game playoff series. We didn't get a chance to see it. I know the Nets are the favorites. I know the Nets are here nor there the best team in the league because they are the champions right now. The Nets are the team that everybody expects to win the championship next year. But the one thing about the Bucks is Mike Budenholzer. You talk about guys who got monkeys off their back. Mike Budenholzer is completely off the chopping block now.
Absolved, right? Yeah.
Like, this man cannot get fired in the next 2 years. Do you know they were threatening to fire this man literally like 6 weeks ago?
Sure, he was on the hot seat.
Kyle, the hot seat wasn't the word, Kyle. It's like he was sitting out in the Florida sun, like after it rained, with no umbrella and no air conditioning in the car on I-4 traffic.
That's right.
His seat was that hot. Okay, everybody was wondering why the Bucks not who the Bucks were replacing with.
Well, they were so prepared for Giannis to bail as well, too, at one point, right? I mean, that whole situation, the franchise was going to fall off again and go back to a alleged perpetual rebuild would have been the worst case scenario at that point, right? But now that this has happened, you mentioned hot seat isn't hot enough as a description. I'm with you. Absolved. He has found sensation, Budenholzer, okay? Like, he's at that next place.
To Cortland's point, the question was, will the finals team suffer the winner's curse? As he's mentioned before, championship teams have players get poached. We saw the Lakers get poached. like a whale. They got poached pretty hard in the offseason. They lost Rajon Rondo. They ran JaVale McGee out of town like ingeniously. Okay, and they tried to replace them with different pieces. It didn't work. I don't know. Bobby Portis could get paid, but the way Bobby Portis was talking when they won that championship, he felt like he was at home. He had been bounced around the league. I mean, the guy was bouncing around. He was superly talented, just couldn't put it all together. I don't want to call Kyle this team being like the Isle of Misfit Toys, but just look about how this roster was put together. None of those guys were literally top 5 picks. Giannis was outside the lottery. Chris Middleton was a second-round pick that was given up on by the Pistons. Drew Holiday was bounced around from team to team and just wanted to change the scenery. Brook Lopez was jettisoned out of New Jersey or Brooklyn after being the all-time leading scorer in franchise history. Like I said, Bobby Portis couldn't stick anywhere. They drafted DiVincenzo and Pat Connaughton. They had different guys, but PJ Tucker, none of these guys were high lottery picks, and they won the championship, like Giannis said, without assembling a super team. Now, let's be honest with you, they did trade for Drew Holiday. All right, well, that's not like Drew Holiday can't play the game of basketball. Okay, I know I get what Giannis is saying, but they wouldn't got Drew Holiday. All right, it wasn't like Drew Holiday was one of those homegrown players.
Right.
This ain't Golden State here. Okay.
Oh, not at all. And it's not an abundance and embarrassment of riches of offense per se. I'm not saying these guys can't put points on the board. They just don't do it traditionally. But the top here's what it comes to me. Like the Bucks, and I guess I'm complimenting buttholes more than anything else here. The Bucks leaned into being different. Okay, they're a team that relies more on defense and just whooping your butt than chucking it from the cheap seats, a la a GS Dub or the Nets, right? And from that standpoint, it's a whole thing with them having a completely different identity. And listen, I know D. Will is a better basketball mind than I am, and I know his comment is that the Nets would run them out of the building. I'm not there. What? I'll put it this way. Chris Middleton as a number 3 option could be the best number 3 defender in the NBA, potentially. And you'll tell me in a minute if I'm nuts, I'm sure. Drew Holiday is a great defender. And the only reason he's not the best defender is that Greek kid who's on the court too. That guy, right?
Yeah, that guy. The guy with the long last name.
Yeah, the guy with the long last name. His brother's on the team too. Very cool when they're standing side by side, the long names on the jerseys and everything. But you're going to try to tell me that Harden, Kyrie, and Durant, three players who, by the way, deserved or not have a reputation for being mentally weak when the chips are down and having a reputation for not performing how they need to in the playoffs, regardless of injury, right? Well, actually, in Durant's case, it's mostly all because of injury if he's fallen short in the playoffs. Let's be fair. But you're trying to tell me that trio would easily supplant these 3 guys who are the defensive juggernauts that they are? Nah, sir. Run out of the gym. I'm going to be bold enough to say, again, D. Will's a better basketball mind than I, but I think he's off kilter on that particular one.
I will say this. The Nets with 1.5 players was literally Kyle inches away from beating the Bucks.
That's true.
Kevin Durant's foot was literally centimeters away from being behind that 3-point line, and this would have never happened. I get Darrell's point. Okay, because the first couple games of that series, I think Brooklyn was up 2-0 in that series, and Kyrie Irving goes down. Okay, series changes. I mean, it is what it is. James Harden gets hurt in game 1. You guys still have Kyrie and KD. Then James Harden goes. Then Kyrie goes down, and then you're like, you got to bring Harden back because KD can't do it by himself. I get Darrell's point. The thing is, I think when you get that bit of confidence and when you win that championship, it changes things. The same way I thought the Boston Celtics had turned that corner when they won they got within 1 quarter of beating LeBron James. I thought that corner was turned, but then the dynamic changed when Kyrie Irving came back. I get what he's saying, and I agree with a lot of what he's saying. But man, now after watching this, I wonder what's that going to do for the confidence level of the Bucks. I get what he's saying because I agree.
On paper, it's sound. I like it.
The way they were playing. Brooklyn was going to run through the entire NBA, including, I don't care who it was. The Lakers were the only team that were going to stop Brooklyn on the way to the championship. The only thing that kept the Nets from not doing a championship was injuries, because they were going to run through the Eastern Conference like literally X-Lax with someone who hasn't been to the bathroom in weeks. They would go run through the Eastern Conference. It's that simple. The Bucks
good said, yeah.
Yeah, all three of them healthy, you weren't going to stop them. But I think the confidence of what the Bucks got that in winning that series, beating Atlanta with the chips being down. I mean, yeah, Trae Young got hurt, but Giannis had a freaking hyperextended knee.
Right.
Okay. All right. Both teams lost their best players. So it was very difficult for all parties involved when it came to that. So I get what Darrell's saying. Like I said, I agree. I agree with him up until the last 6 days. And I saw the Bucks the last 6 days. And I would say instead of being run out of the building, it's going to be a full-fledged knockdown, drag-out, heavyweight fight. Kyle, this was a boxing match in the 1980s. I ain't talking about this other stuff now, these moving out the way. I'm talking about the stuff that you see. We saw Roberto Durant and Sugar Ray Leonard go at it. Thomas Hitman Hermans and Sugar Ray Leonard go at it. Yeah. We're talking about with Chavez. We're talking about those type of fights you would have saw if those two teams are completely healthy in the Eastern Conference Finals going into next season, because that's what we want, because it gets the people going, as Will Ferrell says.
I'll see that and raise you this. You mentioned the increased confidence of the Bucks. That's a great point. I would see that and raise you. Now, are the Nets going to be in a position where they question themselves? And again,
I don't think you can't, because the thing is, you question is the fact of, to most people's point, if one of those two don't get hurt, Irving or Harden, they would have won that series.
Right. No. I'm hearing that concept. Where I'm at is at this point, they've already, the loss is in their head. The big ass foot is in their head, all that. And I don't mean to make fun of Kevin Durant. I just love that quote and I respect it thoroughly.
Big foot.
Well, yeah. But where I'm at is two things, right? The mental toughness and all that other stuff. And maybe they can still hit that. But at what point are we also noticing Durant and Irving as injury proneness being an issue? I'm not saying they're Joel Embiid, but you know,
I mean, at this point, we all know Kyrie Irving's injury history. I think Kevin Durant, technically, I won't consider him injury prone. He came off an Achilles injury, which we all know basically debilitates. And the fact that he was scoring 40 and 50 at will in the playoffs means he's completely back. And Darrell in the chat before we transition. Great points, Kyle. See?
Yeah.
And Cortland also said that the Bucks did play old school basketball. He did. Giannis basically played like Shaq. He put his head down and dared everybody to beat him.
But he made free throws in Game 6, so there's that.
Listen, I think the word was he was talking to Steph Curry before the game and learned how to shoot free throws all of a sudden. If that's the case, then Steph Curry has now become the free throw whisperer. All right.
He has a coaching job. I have more confidence in him than Jason Kidd. Oh,
listen, if he's getting Giannis hit free throws, I'm sure you're going to hear Ben Simmons on line 1.
There you go.
All right. For those who have watched this show, Kyle, over the last, I don't know, year and plus and a half that we've been doing this show, Kyle and I normally run our yap the entire time on the show. Normally, I think the last guest, Kyle, we had on the show with both of us together was Rashard Phillips.
Oh, you're talking about in studio,
just in general. Last time,
that's right.
Last time we had a guest on the show. Don't diss Jason Kidd. Listen, Jason Kidd dissed himself. All right, but last time we actually had a guest on the show was Rashard Phillips. Big shout out to Yoda. I'm gonna try to get him on during the summer. Yoda, but Yoda's a hard man to get a hold of. By the way, I love Yoda. By the way, so tonight Kyle and I decided to do something different. Kyle and I have always talked NFL in different perspectives, but tonight we want to do something different. This is what we're going to do for the entire longevity of the NFL preview section. Of course, we're going to talk about the NFL, but we're also going to get some friends to talk about the NFL. And tonight we're talking about the AFC South.
Boom.
Yes, the AFC South. We got some outstanding guests, and the first one is actually in the queue. Let me bring him in. Our good friend, Mr. Travis Holmes. Travis, how you doing, my friend?
Good afternoon, gentlemen. I am doing well.
You got the goat working good, man. You look good, brother.
That's just because you can't see my body. This is head up. So yeah, I think we all put on a few pounds in this COVID times, man.
Listen, I think we all have at this point. I mean, you really can't say that you. I mean, if you didn't put on pounds, then I don't know if you were at home the entire time. Let me fix this whole screen because we're gonna fix this up so we all can be in the same area. All right. So what we're doing tonight is we're going to go round robin style with all the different people that you're going to see. They cover their individual teams for the individual outlets, and we're going to let them give their time to talk about the individual outlets in a second. But Travis is on. Listen, Travis talks all things Jacksonville Jaguars, so we're going to let him break down the 1-15 Jacksonville Jaguars coming into the season. All right, Travis. Yes. I'm gonna start it off first.
Say, toss the softball. Let the man get in. Get the easy question out the way, brother.
Okay. We're gonna talk about the easiest first question. Is the biggest question in Jacksonville is Urban Meyer. What are your thoughts about Urban Meyer, the hiring, and how do you feel now? Let's start with your instant reactions and how you feel now after a couple months.
All right. So instant reaction. I was supposed to be excited for it, and I knew exactly why I should have been excited for it. He's a bona fide winner. He's an offensive genius. He's a college builder, program builder. He's going to do all the things around the team that's going to make it look like a legitimate organization, the organization you want to deal with, and that's all fair points. But it's because I still have that little Florida Gator in me that, I'm a UCF fan, but I was before that, lifetime Florida Gator fan. I got those feelings don't just go away. Those heart issues, I should say, don't just go away out of nowhere. So you have some feeling and you try to let it go, but so I believe that he is a solid hire, and by solid, I mean A-. Not going to get much better than that, but I'm one of those weird people that I'm all for. I need the most aggressive coach possible. I want the most cutting edge coach possible. I would rather have a coach that never goes for it on fourth down unless it's like 4th and 10 plus. I always goes for it. I'm sorry. I'm that guy. So because I'm that guy, that's why I'm I really would have liked to have an up and coming coach who you can kind of build the whole program around, but I do understand why they hired him.
How do you feel now?
Now, a little bit, I'm about the same. Just now because of the fact that we kept on a terrible GM. And that leads me to believe that if this season doesn't go right, they already have their scapegoat in house. Mm-hmm. And that's the part that I don't know how to feel about that just yet until I see how the season kind of shapes up. Because I foreshadowed this first season can go one of two ways. I mean, we can end up being a 7-win team, which is probably my ceiling for this team. I would say 7 to 8 wins, or they'll have a rough season and then, they're firing him and they're getting their real staff in, sort of like the same thing that happened with Dave Caldwell when he first came in the door for the Jaguars. You know what I mean? They had an old an old scouting team from the previous GM, and then finally brought his guys in for his second draft. And that's kind of how I foreshadow if they have a bad season. That's exactly how that would work.
Okay, so if they've had a bad season, they'll clean that house and the scapegoat's in place, but at least the parts will still be moving. Which
basically it's the Urban Meyer show as far as who's leading the bus, but at the same time, if it doesn't go right, you kind of have that little get out of jail free card.
Yeah, I can't front on that at all. I mean, let's put it this way. Danny's got that one softball is a great question, but here's my other one for you, partner. What about Sunshine? Trevor Lawrence, man, I'll tell you this, with the offensive line being what they are to the salary cap and spending entirely too much time in the tub, not necessarily a fault of their own, obviously. Mm-hmm. I mean, I like DJ Shark, who doesn't, but does Lawrence have enough to get to the ceiling that you said of 7 wins?
Yes and no. Okay. I see. This is interesting because I think they're actually trying to build this team. If anybody who's watched the Jaguars over the last, I don't even know at this point, let's say close to a decade, knows that the Jaguars have always emulated, always tried to be like from top down, wanted to be the Seattle Seahawks. They've always wanted to be it from Jump Street. As soon as Seattle kind of just took off after, they built through the draft and everything else, and that's what they've wanted to be in very many ways. And I'm not saying that the defense necessarily is being built that way, because I believe they're actually going to be leaning more towards a hybrid and or 3-4 defense. A lot of, as it currently stands, at least, but no one can objectively say that that's going to be the case, but it seems to be the case based on the personnel. Right. Then you can say that, hey, if they can just get a defense that's going to give them, 14 to 21, 21st in the league, just something along those lines, realistically, they'll probably be the 2018 Seattle Seahawks. Like they could legitimately be a 7-win to 10-win team just based on the defense improving just to that level. Because that defense last year was horrendous. And I mean, Gardner Minshew was a problem, but at the end of the day, like it wasn't just him. It was, multiple aspects of that team were just, terrible from leadership on down. But the defense, again, if you can improve that defense just to middle of the pack, you got a 3-headed monster at running back. You can kind of rotate that with Carlos Hyde. You can rotate that, with James Robinson and ETN. We can figure that ball control part out. Again, I realistically believe that with Trevor Lawrence, they're just an adequate quarterback. And I'm not saying he's going to be, but I think that's probably his floor, at least that you're going to get a top 10, top 12 offense. Cool. Top 10, top 12 offense, top 15 to 20 defense. You will easily in that AFC South with, Indianapolis with the new quarterback with, goodness gracious, Houston. We don't even know what's going to happen with that. You know what I mean? Like you can get to that 7-win mark just by that. It's my belief, anyways. Looking at the schedule.
And so, if they achieve that, like, is that where they really start to really dig their claws in and then build for that playoff competition with the Titans at that point?
Right. And so I feel like in year one, that's probably the goal. I know that's not the goal in house. Sure. They're not saying that, of course. Like they want 10 wins, but I also don't believe that they know that they're not there yet. We still need to get a tight end. We still need to get a lot more depth, O-line.
You don't believe in Tebow?
I don't believe Tebow is going to be on the official roster as far as week 1.
Yeah, I don't either. I just had to make the joke. Like we're talking about the Jags, that there's a quota that we have to mention Tebow's name at least twice. We just do that. We can move on.
See, you know how I feel about Tebow, so that was like throwing a grenade and just throwing a grenade and closing the door. Like that's not.
for you guys.
Exactly. Travis, last question before we let you out of here. You mentioned the fact that the team is trying to build like the Seattle Seahawks, and that's been the premise for the last 10 years. Mm-hmm. If that was the case, the defense 2 years ago, three years ago, was on Seahawks level. Jalen Ramsey, AJ Boye, you had Josh Allen, they had Calais Campbell, you had Miles Jack, they had the Seattle Seahawks defense. Okay, let's not get this twisted. If you're trying to rebuild that, you have Trevor Lawrence because you need a quarterback because Jackson DeVille cannot play quarterback, as we all learned.
But it's fun to watch.
You have a second first-round pick that you trade back in. You got in a second you trade back into. Mm-hmm. You went for Travis Etienne, running backs when you needed a pass rusher. Quickly, how does that work?
I believe they simply wanted to build the offense in the way that they wanted it to be and then figure out the rest later. I felt like that was just a straight value pick because the rumbling was that no matter what, they were looking for a running back. I forget the guy's name, the running back that went to Pittsburgh in the first round. Like it might have been one pick before.
Najee Harris.
Najee? Yeah. Thank you, goodness. That's actually who they were originally targeting as far as the running back. And then there was another, the receiver from Florida was the second person that Urban looks like they were targeting. Again, they objectively don't come out and say it all, but they kind of, you see all the different rumor reports. At the end of the day, they really wanted to have some kind of ball control situation, or at least, some, all right, I gotta give James Robinson some help. We got to get some ball control as far as it's concerned. If we're not going to have a top flight defense, at least we're going to get this clock running and keep the ball, play defense through ball control, kind of one of those situations. That seemed to be the case. And again, if they can't get that top 10 defense, maybe that's not the goal in year one. Maybe the goal is just to get a middle of the pack defense and outscore everyone. And that still will be a significant improvement over last year.
Hey, that's a better answer for it than I would have had, brother. I respect the ball control concept 100%.
And this is why you brought him on the show. Travis, before we let you out of here, where can everybody follow you on Twitter handle, and all your work? It's your time to plug away, my friend. Go ahead.
All right. Twitter handle is Trav Likes Bacon. Because why not? It's delicious. And you can follow me on Facebook, Travis D. Holmes. And yeah, and used to write for SB Nation, no longer. But again, I still give my funny takes. I'm here for all the memes that these days, a little bit of sports here and there, and all Jaguars and all UCF. So thank you guys for having me on.
Hey man, glad you came in, House Holmes. Glad to see you aboard. We might have you back next time, brother. Thank you.
Exactly, my friend. That's Travis Holmes. Like I said, check him out at Trav Loves Bacon, because you got to follow him, because who doesn't love bacon?
I mean, that's the respect he has for beef. He likes bacon too. That's what's up.
Exactly. Travis, thanks for coming on the show. And guess what? See, the thing is, normally when you have a guest, you transition to a commercial, but this is the internet. We don't got commercials around here. So as we transition Travis out of the building, we're also going to bring in my main man. And Kyle, I'm going to let you introduce our next guest to the show.
Listen, this guy's an indomitable force when it comes to analysis of draft things altogether. And actually, he got a lot of his start for his site writing for the Colts. At some point, even Colts writers just once fought him notorious, but he overcame that. That's a joke. But anyways, the man I know from Blue HQ Media, Dalton Tinklerberg scouting, the man himself. Dalton Tinklerberg, what's going on, man?
Living the dream. I'm coming to you from a car tonight because I got stuck in traffic. So,
yeah,
you can hear me all right.
No, I think you're coming in well enough. Hey, listen, we're good enough here to roll with the real world and how it comes into play, and all that stuff. But Danny, I'll throw him the first softball here. Obviously, the thing that's going to set the tone for a lot of this is the play of Carson Wentz. Now, the hypothesis I've thrown out on the show in the past when it was occurring last season is as the Eagles' offensive line started to get plugged with injuries again, Wentz was then put in a position where I think his confidence was kind of shot. I mean, can Quentin Nelson and company be enough to help him get it back?
So, multi-tiered question there. To lead off, I know it's no secret that I was not a fan of the Colts draft strategy this year.
Right.
Bringing Wentz in, you have to address the Kyle Nash size hole at left tackle.
Literally.
The Anthony Costanzo left when he retired. Yeah, they signed Eric Fisher, but is he going to be ready come the start of the season? I mean, training camp starts in 5 days, and we still don't know. So that's the rest of the Colts offensive line is really solid, but if you don't have something at left tackle, you're in trouble. And I think that's what it's really going to come down to this year is whether or not they can keep Carson Wentz clean long enough to find some of these wide receivers out there in the field.
And Dalton, you mentioned getting Carson Wentz back. We watched him in Philadelphia. We really watched him in Philadelphia. And I hate to say this to put the NBA kind of comparison is that he kind of went Ben Simmons on a lot of people because his confidence was shattered. Not only was he getting his head knocked in on a regular basis, he lost his job to a rookie. Okay. Frank Reich helped him to become almost should have been the league MVP that year he got hurt, and the Eagles were 11-2. How important is it for Frank Reich to be the guy to be able to is it Frank Reich? Yeah, it's Frank Reich. Yeah. How important is it to have Frank Reich in Carson Wentz's corner? Not to mention any coach, but the guy that helped him become the MVP. How important is it to have Frank Reich as his head coach?
I think that if he can, find his MVP form anywhere, it's going to be Indianapolis under Reich. Really, the guy is, quote unquote, the quarterback whisperer, right? He's very solid, getting the most out of. You look at Jacoby Brissett, Phillip Rivers. You're talking about a guy who, he was about as mobile as a mannequin in the pocket. And
that's generous
for what he was. Yeah, exactly. For what they had, they did pretty well. Now, I wasn't a fan of bringing Brissett in for, obvious quarterback sneak, but that's a whole other topic. But no, look at what Wentz went through in Philadelphia. And I think anybody's going to struggle with some of the stuff he went through. Going back to even when, Nick Foles came in and won the Super Bowl, and everybody loved Nick Foles, and he was the guy all of a sudden. And then the team's falling apart around you. You don't have any help, and people expect you to make 25, 30, all-world plays a game. It's just not realistic. And I think that it was a bad break overall. Coming to Indianapolis, he's going to be expected to make 10 to 15 plays a game. They have an excellent stable of running backs that are young and capable of carrying the load. Like Kyle asked a minute ago, assuming Eric Fisher at left tackle, that's figured out. Their offensive line is good. They had a top 10 defense, if I'm not mistaken, last year, off the top of my head. So there's a lot of good things in Indianapolis that Carson Wentz isn't going to be expected to carry the whole load. And I think that, assuming that Frank Reich can get him back to where he needs to be, the Colts are a legitimate contender this year.
I mean, well, I'll ask you this way. It's clearly a 2-horse race in the AFC South.
Jacksonville and Houston, right?
Oh, yeah, of course. And well, like I told you, the Toledo Mudheads, like they're going to come up and no. But with that group, I'll put it this way. You mentioned that defense being an excellent group last year. Heck, there's a reason why they were facing the Titans in the playoffs last year with that with the dual 11-5 records. But I'll put it this way. Now that Julio Jones is a Titan, the Colts' best chance to defend that balanced offense in Tennessee is what?
Well, and maybe that's why they went back to drafting edge rushers. Now, given Julio wasn't there during when the draft occurred, but the Colts have had a problem getting to the quarterback for a while. It seems like ever since Mathis and Freeney were running around, wearing a horseshoe. So if you can get to the quarterback, sure. Now the thing about Julio is, based on some stuff that I've been told, he's doing really well, but that's going to put Tennessee in a very tough position salary cap wise down the road. So it's something you're going to have to contend with for now. But when they start having to make tough decisions here in the next 2 or 3 years, that might do them in on its own.
Kyle mentioned the fact that you are a draft guy. Can you talk about the Colts draft picks? Because a lot of people are not familiar with the Colts draft picks. What is the one draft pick that you're the most impressed with on the roster? The one that you're like,
well, how much time do you have?
You do have 3 minutes more, Dalton. I'm just saying.
What'd you say, Kyle?
You do have 3 more minutes, so
we're gonna give you the Carson Wentz. We're giving the Carson Wentz equal protection on this one. How about that one?
Right.
Well, Kwity Paye, I really like. I think he's a great selection. I think that he can really step in and make a difference right away. Deo, the kid out of Vanderbilt, I'm not a fan of the pick, but I see why they made it. The injury kept him back. Without the injury he suffered, which I believe was an ACL tear. Don't quote me on that. I know it was something in the lower body, but it's been a while since I've looked. If he fully recovers, he can be explosive. Now, I would have liked to have seen a tackle at that position, an offensive tackle. From there, I'm not a fan. You have the Granson kid out of SMU, Kyle. I think I texted you when that happened.
You did.
Oh my goodness. Brevin Jordan is still on the board, and you're taking a kid from SMU who, if I remember correctly, you covering the conference, you even said, man, I don't remember him even standing out, watching their games.
You're right, I didn't.
Sam Ellinger. Oh my. Here's the thing. I really like Jacob Eason. He's got the prototypical body for a quarterback. He's got a big arm. He's fairly mobile. I think that you have something to build for in the future. And you bring a quarterback in who, given there's some other circumstances going on, but he just had a big issue with losing his starting job because you drafted a quarterback and you draft another quarterback who is a fairly big name in college that people are going to take interest in. So, Will Fry's out of Penn State, the guard. Yeah, I mean, other than the 2 edge rushers, I'm not a big fan of anything they did in the draft. And I know I've taken some flack from Colts fans for that, but I don't analyze things and write things to make people happy. I break things down to give an honest take and some analysis on it. So, what have you?
Speaking of breakdown analysis, Dalton, where can everybody find your work? Because listen, this is one of the guys that he should get some kind of job. NFL GMs need to pay attention. Dalton's pretty good when it comes to letting folks know about his draft stats. So, Dalton, where can everybody find you?
So I'm all over the place. You'll see some of my stuff on the Scouting Depot. That's where a lot of my scouting reports are. You won't see much right now because I'm still breaking down film and writing, getting ready to hit the road this week. So be on the lookout for that. And then Sports Media Pass. You'll see game breakdowns and stuff from other sports and things there. And then just in general, I'm around. So, but the Scouting Depot is where most of my stuff will go.
Also, follow him on Twitter at DT underscore, was it NFL Scouting?
Yes.
It'll be also, everybody that's on the show tonight, you'll see this little scrolling ticker as Dalton name come across the ticker. You'll see DT underscore NFL Scouting. So Dalton Tinkenberg, thank you for coming through. We're gonna have you back on. Hopefully, you'll be on the Colt this time, not in traffic this time, right?
Construction, man.
Dalton, thanks for coming by. And like I said, we don't have commercials on the show, so when we go from one team riding off to the sunset to the team that actually won the division last year, and who else can we have on this show but my main man in the building, Mike Patton from the 3-point conversion, NFL writer. Listen, Mike's an author. Mike's an NFL writer. Mike talks all things sports, but tonight he is talking about the Tennessee Titans. Mike, how you doing, my friend?
Doing great. How y'all doing?
Hey, man, great to have you aboard, General. Glad you're here, man. Listen, I'll go ahead and toss out the first softball so Danny can sound like the smart guy here. Julio Jones, man, go.
Well, I will say this. There was a lot of buzz before he got here. A lot of Titans fans were like, he's coming here, he's coming here, he's coming here. I wasn't the person that thought he was coming here. I thought there might be a chance, maybe not. Then he comes here, and now everyone is expecting Super Bowl here. A lot of Titans fans think that this team is already in the Super Bowl, but obviously they forgot that the defense has to actually get better this year first.
Mike, you mentioned, like I said, you don't see me and Kyle on screen because we're giving the screen time to our guests. So my question is, you talked about bringing in Julio Jones and, not paying attention to the defense. Now, there were some pretty solid names in the free agent market. There was Melvin Ingram that was just signed the other day by the Pittsburgh Steelers, among other free agents I can't think off the top of my head. How important would it have been for the Titans not to go get Julio Jones, but to add more pieces to the puzzle on defense? Like you said, they needed help on defense. Do you think they solved all those problems in the offseason?
Actually, I think they addressed a lot of them. They stole from the Colts, actually, and got a defensive lineman. His name escapes me right now. But anyway, then you got Bud Dupree. They're hoping that he comes back healthy. You got Janoris Jenkins, who had a great year for the New Orleans Saints. I mean, you have pieces that you brought in that can actually make some things happen. It's going to make that defense better. But the biggest thing is now they have an actual offseason to put in their actual defense. Last offseason, you're transitioning with a defensive coordinator leaving, a new defensive coordinator coming in, and you don't have any practice time or any offseason to kind of install everything. So I think with the offseason, with the new additions, that defense will actually be better as well.
No, that's a great point about the offseason being a thing too. But take me a little bit through some of the young guys that the Titans have brought in through the draft. I mean, I'm not sure how much impact that they'll necessarily make on the pass rush this year. You mentioned Jenkins too. I really like what he's doing as a defender too. That is a good pickup. I know I joke with our good friend Cortland in the chat all the time about the Titans defense, but I do like the Jenkins pick. But as far as the young guys who are coming in off the draft here, I mean, is there anybody in particular that excites you?
Honestly, a guy that excites me that may actually do some things for the Titans is Elijah Molden. Now, he was I believe a third-round draft pick out of Washington. His father actually was a defensive back, Alex Molden, in the NFL. So he actually can play safety, and he can also play cornerback. I honestly was thinking more about Caleb Farley, but then ESPN writer Teron Davenport had to school me a little bit on Elijah Molden. And he sold me. He sold me on Elijah Molden. So I think with his versatility and just with his smarts for the game, I think he definitely can have an impact, especially with Caleb Farley still kind of in question before camp starts.
Hey, man, if Teron Davenport's your source, I'm down with it. Danny, go ahead, bud.
Big shout out to our good friend Teron Davenport over at ESPN. Yes, the 4-letter word we're naming on the show, ESPN. Speaking of 4-letter words, let's talk about the running back that has 5 letters in his last name. Listen, he's the most dominant running back in the NFL, but like you mentioned, they added Julio Jones and A.J. Brown in the offseason, and everybody wants to talk about Ryan Tannehill. how does all these offseason acquisitions affect the number of carries that Derrick Henry's going to get? I'm not speaking from a fantasy perspective, just as a ball controlling aspect.
Well, one thing I did notice is the new offense coordinator was talking pretty recently about, trying to make sure to keep Derrick Henry fresh. What that means to me is they're going to kind of balance it out, try to not run him into the ground during the season. So that way, when the postseason rolls around, he's still fresh. The question comes is, can they win doing it the balanced way? So, definitely, you're gonna have your teams that pack the box and make Ryan Tannehill beat you. You're gonna have your teams that try to cover everyone and then let Derrick Henry run. But the thing is, can you find the proper balance between all those things, as well as, definitely get your rest for Derrick Henry, because he's very, very keen on not trying to wear him out this season.
Yeah, I mean, we don't want to see a situation like we all know with Sean Alexander, Larry Johnson, cats like that. I mean, the list is longer than just those two. I'm sure you could think of three more yourself. But now, Mr. Patton, General, it's time. I gave you the softball. It's time for the tough question, man. Listen, when it comes to this, we know why they beefed up the offense, right? They understand that the path to the Super Bowl goes through probably either Buffalo or through the guy we call on this show, Patrick LaVon Mahomes II in Kansas City. That's a pretty safe bet that you'll have to endure that in the AFC, and probably one of the best defensive and offensive rosters, period, in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. If they stay healthy, their chances for them to come back are compelling because they brought literally everyone back. Have the Titans done enough to be that better team that can go get over that Kansas City hump?
I think they've added enough talent, infused enough talent. As far as offensively, yes, it makes them more difficult to defend. You can't just put 8 people in the box and say, hey, go ahead and let these receivers beat you, because you have Julio on one side and A.J. Brown on the other.
True.
But defensively is going to be the key thing. Bud Dupree, is he going to – I don't think he's going to be the Bud Dupree everyone's used to seeing at the beginning of the year, but as the season goes on, can he get stronger and be that guy? Can the linebackers do play better? I mean, especially Evans. Evans had a disappointing season last year, and a lot of Titans fans didn't, be quite honest. They would be happy if they drafted someone to replace him. But he's here. If he has a better year this year, and the key thing is the secondary. Adoree Jackson he was hurt all last year, and when he played, he wasn't himself. So he's in New York now. Malcolm Butler, he is in Arizona. He was the best corner on the Titans team last year, but that's not saying a lot. So the biggest thing is the Titans secondary. Now, if that secondary can tighten things up, no pun intended, but if they can do that, then I can say this Titans team can definitely contend for the AFC title.
And Mike, last question for let you out of here. Here's the thing. Everybody talked about how Ryan Tannehill was phenomenal last year in the offense. The offensive coordinator, it seemed like he was traded for Julio Jones because Arthur Smith's now in Atlanta, and you guys got Julio Jones. It seemed like a trade. With a brand new offensive coordinator, and like I said, it's not exactly the most normal off seasons, because like I said, everybody's still dealing with COVID. Everybody's still not all together. There wasn't a full off season together. Do you think the offense will miss a beat because the guy that had helped them coordinate this entire thing is now in Atlanta? Do you believe the offense is going to be the same or even better with the new coordinator, with the not the normal amount of play preparation time?
Well, I'll say this. The biggest thing that Arthur Smith did was he created matchups on the field. If you look around, he did like little motions and things like that. What he did that for was to kind of see if you're man or zone, or to try to kind of bump matchups. Like, for a perfect example of that was when A.J. Brown ended up lined up in the slot and he ran the fly pattern out of the slot. That was a matchup thing to get him on Buster Screen versus the Chicago Bears last year. So they're going to miss that part of Arthur Smith and just the way he was able to kind of create matchups. But one thing that a lot of people are forgetting is that the new offensive coordinator actually was the tight ends coach last year. So he's been around this team for a couple years, and he kind of knows what they do well, what they don't do well. So I don't think they'll miss a ton of, I don't think they'll miss a lot. They'll miss some just with that matchup. kind of thing that Arthur Smith had going on. But one guy I think that actually will do well this year, and nobody's probably heard of his name, but Anthony Firkser, who is the tight end, I believe, out of Harvard, who will probably be the starting tight end this year.
See, this is why we get the general on the show. A tight end from Harvard that can make a difference. You're not going to get that analysis anywhere else. That's what I'm talking about.
Mike, before we let you out of here, my friend, where can everybody find you, your work, sports and non-sports? Where can everybody find you at?
You can find me, of course, you can find me on Twitter at the bottom, as you see up under my head here, at 82. But you can also you can find me at let's see. Golly, Danny, you really got enough time for all these places? I'll say this: you can find me, of course, each and every Thursday with a new podcast touring the AFC South. Next week, I got a couple surprise guests and one that everyone sees a lot on a certain network, but we'll see that next week. But anyway, then you also, of course, you can see me right for the 3-point conversion. You can also, let's see. I also do cover different things that go on in Nashville, of course, with the Tennessee Tribune and with the Nashville Voice, of course. And let's see, short stories and things like that. I definitely write those, and those are pretty much everywhere.
Like I said, Mike is a man of many talents. Mike's a Renaissance man, and also arguably the hardest working man you will find when it comes to writing and also working and being a husband and a father at the same time. You check his Instagram page out at 2:00 in the morning. You see Mike in his braids writing something.
And usually with some pretty fly tunes, not for nothing. Just saying.
Hey, look, listen, Mike needs to release a Spotify soundtrack because Mike's got some stuff he's got some heat, as he says all the time. We talk offline. He's got some heat always in the burner. But like I said, this is our version of touring the AFC South, the Beyond the Buzzer style. So we couldn't go to the AFC South without the guy who does tour in the AFC South. So Mike, once again, as always, thanks for coming on the show tonight, my friend. We got to do this again soon.
Yes, sir. Of course. Anytime.
Thank you, General.
All right, Kyle. And we're back to the dual screen. So we did have Patrick Creighton from the Houston Texans on the line, was going to stop in tonight. Kyle actually talked to him earlier on in the week. The good news is we're going to post the actual interview with Kyle and Patrick because they go into it. I'm gonna let Kyle talk about it. Kyle, talk about what you and Patrick talked about.
And also thanks to Mike Patton for making that connection for you two with Patrick Creighton. He's on Late Hits on 97.5 ESPN Houston. He's on 7 to 9 on Thursdays there. So that's why he's not with us now. But that's Central Time, by the way, 8 to 10 Eastern. So when I got together with him, I was looking for more just kind of a comprehensive look going into sports and stuff. And we talked a little bit about some other Houston sports in general. Of course, the Astros are playing. So I had to ask him what life was like covering the most notorious team in the MLB at current. And all that was a lot of fun. We will have that up soon. I will throw that through the Beyond the Buzzer Facebook page, among other places. So you'll definitely see a posting about it here when we do have it posted, and it will be linked in all its 3-point conversionary goodness and all that at that time. But I believe we got some quotes. Did we pull some quotes for that for tonight, or?
I don't think the status quote was actually working today, but here's the thing. Kyle's interview with Patrick Creighton will be on Kyle's brand new podcast, which will be called The Student of the Game, that's coming out very soon. And it's a very informative interview. It's about probably 27, 30 minutes, Kyle.
Yeah, it was a bit deeper dive.
And so
a little bit of Texans history with it as well. So Patrick had a lot of great things to say, and we're definitely going to have another conversation as the season goes on. We couldn't chop it up. It was really too good. Like I said, Kyle's interview, it's going to be up later on this week. Like I said, we'll and definitely big shouts to Patrick. I say he couldn't come on live tonight because he's doing his own show, and kind of, it's kind of a little bit more important than our show because it's his own show. But check it out. Like I said, ESPN Radio out in Houston. Like I said, phenomenal show, by the way. Like I said, but yeah, we're gonna have the entire interview because we couldn't cut it up because it was just way too good. He'll go more into what the Houston Texans are going into. Yeah. So Kyle, so we can at least talk about the Texans that they do get their airtime. I'm listening. Okay, let's give them the airtime, Kyle, because guess what? I'm going to air them out. Go ahead, Kyle. I'll put it this way. I got to give Patrick a lot of credit, and you'll be able to hear the exact degree to which that this is the case. But at the end of the day, there is to say that he is not optimistic is the least harsh way I can describe it. He did go in on these guys, and the main takeaway is it starts with, the Deshaun Watson situation, and that being what it is. He I believe he said top 6 in the NFL if he suits up, but at this point we don't even know if he'll be able to do that for any NFL team, let alone the Texans, for whom he was vocally asking for a trade. I'll go into more in depth that as well in the preview that's going to come out on or around August 1st on the 3-point conversion, by the way. Danny Thompson himself will be covering the NFC West when we get to that also. I'm sure he will slog all over the 49ers because he still can't pronounce Jimmy Garoppolo's name without hesitating. But
Garoppolo, sir, continue.
But the other thing I noticed that he paid a lot of attention to, of course I noticed it. He mentioned that the offensive line is in need of particular concern. And listen, Larry Tunsil is great, but they gave up so much for him. And the rest of the line is a bit of a struggle. He kind of put Larry Tunsil off in a bubble as certainly the anchor man of that group. But the rest of that group is not as reliable. They were 31st running the ball, 29th in passing the ball as an offense last year. And Tyrod Taylor, well, not sure he's going to exactly be the answer, though.
Tyrod Taylor, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
So my quick take on the Houston Texans is this. Listen, we all know the Deshaun Watson situation, and Kyle, and I'm not going to piggyback off what Kyle said because he kind of drilled the point in. Let's talk about something other than Deshaun Watson, because either way, he's not suiting up for training camp. We don't know when he's coming back, so you have to look at what's on the roster. Tyrod Taylor, of course, has always been everybody's most important stopgap quarterback. Tyrod Taylor might have the worst luck. He was doing great he was having a great start to the season. He gets a punctured lung on something weird and is out for the rest of the season. Now he gets stuck in a place where it's a rock and a hard place for him. The problem is the Texans have gotten rid of so much talent in the last 3 years. You don't know who half this roster is.
Right.
Like, if you're going to a preseason game with them, you better make sure you have your binoculars and your number sheet ready. Most folks can't name 5 players on offense not named Deshaun Watson and 3 players on defense. J.J. Watt's long gone. DeAndre Hopkins is 2 years removed. The running game is kind of interesting. The offensive line is not very good. No offense to Laremy Tunsil, but what you gave up for Laremy Tunsil, you maybe should have a Hall of Fame left tackle at this point for all the ammunition you gave up to get him.
I mean, hell, you could have had a Hall of Fame caliber left tackle and still be questioned for how much they gave up.
No one knows the direction of the Texans, and Bill O'Brien's gone. The problem is with Bill O'Brien being gone, he got rid of everybody on his way out the door.
Oh, but who is the head coach? A rookie who was not even considered for a coordinator job anywhere else. No offense to Dan Culley, but the facts of the case are those.
The best player on the Houston Texans is the mascot.
Although
Toro is very talented, by the way.
That's true. Toro is badass. Although the bright spot that Patrick did cite came in the form of a rookie, Nico Collins. I'll let you go ahead and listen to the recording once it's released there for what exactly Patrick liked about him. And Patrick Creighton was a fantastic interview. Yeah, we'll leave it at that.
So, like I said, we've previewed the AFC South. We're not going to say we toured it because that's Mike Patton's show, but we did go through the AFC South, our version of the AFC South preview. So, over the next 5 weeks, 7 weeks, we're going to preview the other divisions as well too. We're going to have a multitude of writers. You never know who's going to stop through. Let's just say that. So keep engaging in the show, and you're going to find more about who comes out. And next week's show, Kyle, let's see. Next week, Kyle, since we stepped in the AFC last week, we're going to go to the NFC next week. Which division? Stay tuned. All right, Kyle, as we get ready, Kyle, tomorrow starts the Olympics. Yay! The bad news is COVID's back.
So
listen, our wonderful friend COVID, and we say hello Olympics, is a topic now. As COVID has now reared its really head that the country of Guinea has now pulled out of the Olympics because they worried about they were going to get COVID. All 5 athletes, and yes, I said all 5 were pulled because not for they say financial reasons, but they're worried that the athletes were going to contract COVID and bring it back to the country. Why would you say why were we worried about it? Because most of the world doesn't have the COVID vaccine or have access to it, as Japan. So, Kyle, as we get ready for the Olympics, let's take a look at what's happened, Kyle, and because technically, even though the opening ceremony is tomorrow, the Olympics have already started. How the Olympics start? Kyle, we have literally watched an exhibition play, Team USA's men's and women's team lose in exhibition games. Kyle, the one other team sport the United States dominates on a regular basis in the Olympics is women's soccer. They won 44 consecutive games in Olympic play until Wednesday. Their opening game in the Olympics against Sweden, Kyle, they got shut out 3-0.
Ouch.
That wasn't the word of the night. It was shock.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, Kyle, we get ready for the Olympics. I don't even know what to expect. I promise you, I'm not jinxing Simone Biles, but if she don't walk around with this gold medal, I'm going to Tokyo myself.
I mean, listen, you got to understand, and I think as much as we focus on it for the men's sports with the effect of the bubble and the extensive play and all of that, the women had to do the very same thing. So I think it's a very unique opportunity for the rest of the world in all facets to kind of catch up based on the fatigue factors that exist.
Listen, I promise you, if all 3 of them don't come home with gold, I don't know what to say in that situation. I just know that it's going to be weird.
I'll put it this way. If we, and like, this is something we won't have enough data to actually, call it causation, but there may be a correlation between that. And listen, I don't know what the gymnastics world is like, but I can tell you this. I don't think there's as much pressure to have events, to push seasons, to play condensed timetables in gymnastics or track and field or any of that as there would be for some of the other major sports, simply because with respect to all of them, there's a lot less money involved. There's not as much fanfare and there's not billions and billions of dollars at stake. So they were probably more likely to cancel events rather than thank you, Danny, than participate in them. So no bubbles, no condensed play, proper time to train and rest. We'll see what happens. And I'm with you, man. I hope Simone Biles has something for it. Not necessarily because of the whole U.S. winning gold thing. We all want that here on this show, I'm sure, just because we live here. But overall, I want to see Simone Biles be Simone Biles because greatness kicks butt.
Exactly. Nah. All right, that's all I have to say about that. Goats reign. And Kyle, as we talked about Goats reign. Let's talk about the GOATs right now, and let's transition into college football. And so, why am I saying GOAT? Kyle, we haven't played one snap of college football, but Kyle, there's a new GOAT in college football right now, Kyle. It's NIL. NIL's become the GOAT. All right. It's interesting, Kyle, how NIL has changed the way we think about, college athletes being paid. Okay. Because if you look at it right now, Kyle, Alabama's new starting quarterback, Bryce Young, Kyle, coming in, he's the next one in the line. All right. He's the next one in line in the Alabama quarterbacking tree. I'm not, you don't really consider them the best quarterbacking tree, but when you're an Alabama quarterback, you're just used to winning. Right. All right. It is what it is. This man has not started one game in college football, Kyle, but his NIL deals have gotten him $1 million, Kyle. He has $1 million in endorsements and has not started a single game in college football. Kyle, I'm still weirded out about this. Like, I understand, De'Aaron King and Sam Howell, who we talk about De'Aaron King's endorsement deals that he got the second NIL started. Sam Howell signed with Bojangles yesterday for undisclosed figure. So yes, he's the spokesperson for Bojangles.
Now he does in the entire season.
Oh, trust me, he's dropping dimes everywhere, sir. Dropping them, he's dropping more dimes than, to quote Big L, than the Sprint lady.
I
All
mean,
right.
the ACC is a schedule. He'll have opportunity. That's sure.
Listen,
Anyway.
he's going to be a top 5 pick, sir. You're not going to rain this parade. But what I'm saying is, we look at guys who have gotten these deals, Kyle. But a guy, first and foremost, you will never, ever hear me, raining on somebody's parade for what they do with what they do, because we all want these kids to get paid. Okay, we all want them to get paid. All right. I'm also looking at it from this perspective. This kid has not thrown a single snap. He hasn't started one game. This man ain't ran on the field one time, but to go through the tunnel before a game starts. And he's got $1 million. What happens if he throws 4 picks in Alabama's first game?
That'd be a bad investment, wouldn't it? Listen, man, first of all, if you're surprised by this, you haven't heard me make my joke about the SEC being the best college football that money can buy all these years. Okay. So I'll leave that at that. But I mean, it's just different in the South and how they feel about football, man. And you're talking about the holy grail of college football programs, which it's ironic that I talk about the holy grail, because while everybody thinks that Nick Saban is the devil, the fact of the matter is he's still an elite coach. And people keep telling me, gosh, Kyle, can he do it forever? What if he has a bad season this year? What if he rebuilds after Tua, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? I'm like, listen, he's Nick bleeping Saban. If he has one bad season, he'll be just fine. Oh, sure, some writers will lose their damn minds, but hey, there's a certain non-Alabama team that's a G5 team that's really good in their G5 space, but nonetheless, they're still complaining. Yes, I'm shouting out UCF fans here and calling them out on that, but I'll put it this way. And to answer Travis, it's not weird that they're getting in the endorsement. It's the $1 million part that he couldn't handle. But by the same token, it's the SC bleeping C. The boosters they have there are ridiculous, and they were given an opportunity to legitimately pay a young man to play the position.
All right.
I get it. If the goal was paying college players and a guy at the highest level of college football got a big ass endorsement, that's what's going to happen. That's what the NIL is.
See, Travis, here's my point. It's not the fact that I'm weirded out, okay? It's different. Like I said, when I look at Sam Howell getting a deal, I get it, because Sam Howell was considered a top 5 pick in the NFL draft. All right. I can look at, we talked about De'Aaron King earlier. De'Aaron King is, like I said, he's a marketable player. He's basically the face of that. He's started on not one, but 2 college teams throughout his entire career. Go back to his days at Houston.
Very good.
Certain guys, I can understand getting these type of deals because they're marketable. Travis, let me give you Bryce Young's numbers from last season, okay? He appeared in 9 games, all right? He's 13 for 22 for 156 yards and a touchdown pass. This man just got a $1 million deal and has only thrown 1 touchdown pass. 1. Not 12. He had thrown 20. He had thrown 20. He's got 20 completions in his career. I get it. It's Alabama. It's Brickin' Bama. All right. All right. But you're telling me you couldn't pay anybody else in this roster? I know the rest of the guys are making money. No offense. It's a joke. It's a joke. It's a joke, Bama fans. All I'm saying is, of all the guys in the roster to get $1 million, that's the last guy I would expect it.
Not the last guy, but I'll put it this way. Like,
he better produce.
Yeah, no, Cortland's 100% right about that. I love that you did your best Vincent LaGuardia Gambini from My Cousin Vinny. You're an Alabama, okay?
Okay, I get it.
It ends there. Everything else is window dressing, Danny Thompson.
Yeah, but I mean, it's like I said, it's different if he was like the star player on the team. The kid just walks in. He's just walking into a brand new job. It's not like he's been at the school for like 2 years. Yeah, you started last year.
In your lifetime, we saw, I forget his last name, Sam. What's his butt? The former Rams quarterback.
Sam Darnold.
Not
not Darnold. Bradford.
Thank you. Sam Bradford got $13 million before taking snap one. I get it. He was a college success by then, and that's the NFL, and they're supposed to get paid professional and all that. But this, sir, is no different. He's getting paid based on potential. And hey, listen, if you're being coached by Nick Saban, I mean, listen, of course, let's put it this way, too. If you're looking for greatness from Alabama quarterbacks, here's where the boosters are misinformed. I mean, yeah, Tua was pretty awesome, but some of the other Alabama quarterbacks that are out there in the world, like the A.J. McCarrons, for example, the Greg McElroys, that are all analysts now, more than likely. This investing in an Alabama quarterback like that is kind of a mistake, really, if you look at it historically. They should be going for the running back, but I digress.
Listen, but the running backs, you think about this. Okay, we all know how good Derrick Henry was. All right, fine.
And give Najee Harris his credit.
Listen, Najee Harris has not played one snap in the NFL yet.
That doesn't matter. You're getting paid for college sport right now.
Okay, but Kyle, listen to this. Alabama running backs have either gotten hurt or they have not been very good in the NFL. Outside of Derrick Henry, all right? Look at this. Sean Alexander, he was the MVP. He got hurt. He didn't have a sustainable long-term history.
Yeah, well, I mean, listen, that was because of how much that the Seattle Seahawks ground him into the pavement. That's not his.
Okay, let me continue. Yeah, that's one.
You need a better example, is what I'm telling
Where's TJ Yeldon?
See, that's a much better example.
Oh, I'm not finished. It gets better, ladies and gentlemen. Where is my main man, Mr. Richardson himself, Trent Richardson?
Yo, that's a low blow. That's borderline cruel, dog. Oh
what I'm saying is Alabama running backs ain't exactly have the best track record outside of Derrick Henry. All right.
Hey,
and like I said, it ain't lasted long.
I'll put it this way. Whether he produces or not, it's on the boosters for deciding to invest that much in a kid. I'm just saying.
And Cortland in the chat was mentioning, yes, the coldest forest. Yes, I know who you're talking about. No, I'm sorry, the coldest to ever do it. Yes, I know the kid at LSU, the 5-star wide receiver. He's got the greatest name of all time, and I guess that his mother named him the coldest to ever do it. That's all I'm going to tell you. It's his first and his first name and his middle name. So obviously, if your name is the coldest to ever do it, listen, he is a 5-star recruit. He's going to LSU. He's a wide receiver.
Hate me?
No, that's his real name.
I know. That's why I'm making jokes.
Listen, with a name like that, you have to be great. There's no way possible with a name like that.
Did you just suggest that he get a Smucker's endorsement because they can both use with a name like blah, blah? It has to be good. Is that it?
Listen.
You're pitching a Smucker's endorsement for this man. And
listen.
I'm okay with it. Peanut butter jelly time. Woo!
Only thing missing for me is the banana suit. Exactly. So I say I'm just not. It's just interesting that a kid hadn't played one single snap.
You can't get past this, can you?
Hell no, I can't. He got $1 million and hasn't played one. He hasn't started one game in college football.
If you were gonna go this nuts, I would have had Dr. Evil ready, man. I'd been on $1 million. Here I got it right here. Dang, let's see if it'll play on time. I don't know, but like
I said, Travis, I understand it's multiple deals totaling $1 million. I know it's not just one deal. I just say his endorsement deals are $1 million. Like
better.
Here's the crazy part: he signed with CAA. It hasn't played this. He signed with CAA. If you look at CAA's list of clients, he's now one of them. Listen, but the other part of this whole NIL thing that's changing the game is it's now went from not just college kids, it's now going to high school kids. Mikey Williams, the number 1 rated, top 5 recruit in his basketball recruiting class, which is listed right now as 2023. I would say 22 because he's probably going to reclassify. Kyle has signed a $3 million endorsement deal, and he's going into his junior year of high school.
But you're cool with that, okay?
No, but see, here's the thing. Here's the difference I have with this, Kyle. He's doing it at the high school level. Mm-hmm. All right. Now, all the kids that have signed the money with the Overtime Elite, signed with the G League Elite, this is a little bit different because they're high school kids. They're not playing at a college campus. The reason why I mentioned Mikey Williams is because Mikey Williams is talking about he wants to be different. Taking $3 million means he doesn't have to worry about money or exposure. He is now the exposure. So, Kyle, what does that mean, Kyle, that if you already have this type of exposure, does that mean when you finish high school and you decide not to go to the NBA, does that mean you have to go to North Carolina to play basketball, Kyle? If you're the number one recruit in the country, or if you're playing football and everybody knows who you are, you make millions of dollars in high school at this point, do you have to go to Alabama at this point to get exposure? Kyle, does it feel like kids who are making money before they get to college don't necessarily need the exposure of an Alabama or a Michigan or a Penn State or a Notre Dame or Ohio State? If they're making $2 and $3 million right now, Kyle, and they're eligible to play college sports, do you really think they really need to go in and say, you know what? I don't need to go to Alabama to get $1 million deal because I got 3 of my own.
Yeah. So I'm not saying that your point is bad because it's not. Okay.
It's just interesting to me.
It's very interesting. But the part that this outlook, and I'm not saying you have this, you're posing a question for a conversation, and I can read you right now. You're not leaving this part of what I'm going to say out of the equation. Okay. That's a great marketing perspective. But people don't just go to Alabama or to Clemson or
I named Clemson for a reason.
I know you didn't, but that's not the point. The punchline is they go to get coached up to prepare for that NFL life. Okay. At the end of the day, that is the value of going to one of those schools. Sure. The exposure is definitely part of the game. I'm not eliminating that. But even if you take that away, do you really think that getting coached up by Nick Saban is tantamount to, let's say, going to Marshall and getting coached up by Doc Holliday?
It's actually Charles Huff now.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that he transitioned. I just like the name. It's been a couple years.
Charles Huff, but now Charles Huff was the former running backs coach at Alabama.
As much as I like Mike Gundy, I don't know that I would pick him over Saban or any of that at OSU.
He has a mullet.
I mean, listen. Heck, a lot of the reason I think UCF's landing so many recruits is because they have Gus Malzahn as a coach.
And now Orlando is superly marketable because every single company is in Orlando, by the way.
Well, I mean, yeah, that, and it happens to, they happen to have fantastic weather here, you know. So over and above, hey, listen, when you're digging out snow in 3 months, we'll talk. But
you're terrible
and accurate. But listen, facts don't care about your feelings, Danny Thompson. You know. I'm also aware that sitting in my office some days it gets so hot that I have to take a shower. I'm aware of that. But listen, at the end of the day, I don't think it's that simple. Now, does this open the door better for a young athlete who has parents that went to a particular school? And let's just say I'll pick one at random. Off the top of my head, you know, let's say they go with Hugh Freeze and Liberty. I don't know. First coach. Okay. Like, if they have somebody, if their parents went to Liberty as an organization, the child may very well do that. And they're like, well, hey, Liberty was 1 point away from being undefeated for the entire season. And that 1 point was against a Power 5 team. And they took down the mighty Coastal Carolina in the Cure Bowl, which will probably be the best Cure Bowl of all time.
He said mighty.
You know, yes, I did. So, but that's the aspect that you lose if you don't go to the bigger school, allegedly. Now, hey, listen, I'm not telling you get an advantage going to Tennessee being coached under Josh Heupel. That's another question. But you know, it's an interesting question you pose, but when you pick those top names, the Alabamas, the Clemsons, hell, you know, as much as we talk about Notre Dame being overrated as an organization, do you think if my son had the opportunity to be coached by Brian Kelly, I'd pass that ish up? You out your damn mind, you know.
Speaking of transition and things changing, we also, before we step out here, last topic of the night, let's talk about what's going on in that SEC conference, Kyle, because it seems like over the last 24 hours, it seems like the SEC is politicking and dancing, potentially adding 2 more teams from, I guess, the breaking up of the Big 12. All right, Kyle. There has been a reported flirtation with Texas and Oklahoma joining the SEC, Kyle. Why at this point?
Okay. So, first of all, what Texas and Oklahoma are doing with the SEC is tantamount to them seeing somebody at the club that they find attractive and going, "Hey, girl, hi." That's it. That's all that's happening right now. Okay. There's so many assumptions that have already been made as if this deal is already done. Here is why this deal even has the slightest of legs. As far as revenue for the conference goes with media, Texas and Oklahoma are head and shoulders above the rest of the Big 12. If I asked you to name the rest of the teams in the Big 12, you may not be able to remember all of them. And you know why? Because I think I would struggle too. So, I don't feel like that is a shock that those 2 teams would attempt to do that. They command so much revenue. My question becomes, how is the SEC incentivized to get this involved? Why would you bring in these teams into the fold? Do they command an opportunity? Do they bring with it a command and opportunity, an even greater monopoly upon the talent of college football? I don't necessarily think so. But this is enough to put the ones who should really be sweating is the Big 12. Because at this point, we can confirm that negotiations are going to start to take place. And now Texas and Oklahoma would be in a position to say, listen, Big 12, if you want us to stay, you have to give us a bigger cut of the pie versus you. Now,
here's the other potential drawback to these 2 schools leaving for the Big 12. In the SEC guidelines, 11 of the 14 presidents and universities have to say yes to, adapting new teams in the conference. All right, let's look at the votes right now. I think you have a solid 10. You got 3 that are going to say, like you mentioned, Kyle, hell to the no. All right,
one of
that's
them
good.
Say A&M. Let's just
A&M wants no part of any other team in Texas.
Right.
This is their land. They struck gold first. They got here first. All right.
Yeah, that's right.
A&M is 1. Number 2 is Arkansas. Arkansas don't want them in the conference either. You're trying to recruit. And do you really think at Arkansas you're going to be able to recruit bigger names if your conference now has Texas and Oklahoma in that area trying to get those prospects? Not a chance in the world.
Hey, the Texarkana thing is real. That's a good shout out by you, Danny Thompson.
And I think the 3rd team is going to say no right now. Listen, it's the Bayou Bengals.
You think LSU would say no? That makes sense.
Listen, when you mentioned about the Texarkana whole situation, listen, LSU's fighting for recruits those schools as well too. All right. I would think those 3 were the ones that would say no, and I think the one team that's on the fence, school on the fence, it's Tennessee. Tennessee and Vandy might be the ones that might be on the fence about this.
Why is that?
It's Tennessee and Vandy. When do they ever do anything right?
Well, the reason why I think you hold a little bit of weight there is because they are the bottom of the barrel. They are the weakest links. And
see, Vandy is the academic school, so you got to think athletics don't mean much to them. All right, they love collecting that SEC money.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. Because they're at the bottom of the barrel, as they are the weakest links in the chain. Should something come about to where you could only have so many schools, those 2 will be cut first. I mean, because let's be honest, Tennessee hasn't done a damn thing since Peyton Manning, and Vandy, as you said, is the academic token, no question.
And they also help the conference with their GPA. Here's the thing here's why the SEC wants these 2 schools. Kyle, how many universities have their own television network? And let's count them, Kyle. How many do they have?
It ain't many, but I mean, I know you're speaking to the Longhorn Network directly, no question.
Notre Dame has one, and the ACC tried, flirted, and failed. All right. The ACC tried, flirted, dated their sister by letting them in every other conference sport, but couldn't get the big sister. All right. They couldn't land because Notre Dame was not giving up that TV money. There's no way. BYU is another school that has their own private television network. The BYU network is out in the
I didn't
Utah
even-
area.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, they have their own network. All right, it's a smaller network, but guess what? It's their own network. Kyle, you mentioned the third school that has it is Texas.
Mm-hmm.
The SEC wants that Longhorn network money. Let's be honest. Let's cut the crap. They want that money. All right. That is a big check because guess what? People in the state of Texas pay for the network. All right.
Football, man.
They love Texas. SEC loves Texas. SEC loves money. Texas loves football. It goes hand in hand.
Mhm.
All right. Oklahoma is about as the network as you get. Listen, if you can get Oklahoma and Texas, your football profile goes from better to you're asking to be the team that has the ninth division in the NFL. All right. You're asking, can you get that extra spot in the NFL because you have that much NFL talent in your conference? All right. By adding Texas, Oklahoma to already the SEC. All right. Does it make the most sense? Of course it doesn't. All right. If they should expand, let's be honest. I don't think you expand west. You stay east. Hey, call UCF. There we go. I'm just saying, Kyle, if you're going to make the phone call, you stay. Listen, I understand Texas is one thing. All right. You go call UCF. You go get that Orlando and that Central Florida television market. All right. You already got the Gainesville market. Take over the entire state. That's one. And Kyle, I'll be honest with you. If you're going to stay in the SEC, I wouldn't even touch either one of those two. I would go in the Big 12 and grab somebody else, but I would go for West Virginia at this point.
Oh, God. Why?
Why wouldn't you? West Virginia might not have the highest profile, but guess what? West Virginia is more low maintenance than the other two schools.
Right, but they don't bring a damn thing for revenue.
Listen, the SEC don't need no damn revenue. They got enough of it.
No, my
because
man.
Kyle, think about this, Kyle. If you walk into a relationship and Texas is walking in with a whole big bag of money, okay, Kyle, they can buy us 10 times over in this show. By the way, Texas, anybody from Texas want to donate to the show? Go ahead. What I'm saying is,
Great in orange. I'm just throwing that out there.
listen, I'm wearing orange right now. What I'm saying is, if this is the point, the SEC has money and Texas has money, Kyle. Do you really think if Texas is going to join the SEC, they're going to try to cut? They're going to want the SEC money, but they're not going to want to share their own money.
Right.
So, like, you know, it's kind of Scrooge McDuck. I want your money, but I'm not willing to give you mine.
I'm not going to give you my lucky dime, Danny.
Exactly. And the SEC is like, listen, you join us, we're taking some of that with us. Okay. Yeah. No, it's not going to work that way.
McDuck and gold. It'll be a hell of a battle. I like it.
Exactly. So why would you want to deal with foolishness? The SEC needs to expand, Kyle. 14 teams doesn't look right. You need to have a good number of 16. All right. Listen, when they added Missouri, which made no sense to me, and A&M,
figure that out.
Listen, I don't get it. When you added Missouri and A&M, it made the conference at 14. It don't look right. You got to go intervals of 4. It's 4. It's 12 and then 16. All right. Then you can go 4 divisions or 2 8-team divisions, whatever you want to do. So here's the thing: Texas, Oklahoma is too much of divas. They're going to want control. They're going to want to run this and run that. The SEC ain't going for that. All right. Texas and Oklahoma could run over the rest of the schools in the Big 12 because, like you said, the rest them other 10 schools, other 8 schools, because they ain't 12 no more, it's 10. Them other 8 schools couldn't even make enough money to match Oklahoma's budget. No offense, it is what it is. Texas is the reason why that conference is still existing. All right, but if I'm the SEC, I don't want to deal with that diva. I don't. West Virginia, they'll fall right in line. I mean, I think West Virginia would be also great in the ACC as well, too, because you can start West Virginia, Virginia in the rivalry game, and you bring back Maryland, which should have never left in the first place. And guess what? You have a triangle of foolishness, which I love.
I mean, hey, if you're saying ACC and foolishness, sign me up.
Exactly. But like I said, we don't. It's the beginning, like Travis said in the chat, the beginning of college Pangea. Yeah, it reminds me of playing college football's national championship on the Sega Genesis back in the early part of the 90s, where they didn't have conferences. They just had basically land masses, and these schools just played in the same division of land masses. The SEC could add another school. Listen, the SEC ain't touching Coastal Carolina, all right?
Oh boy, no.
They ain't listen. No one wants to be in the Conway, South Carolina television market. All right, they don't even have a television market. All right, they don't have the television market. They don't have it. It doesn't make sense to go to Conway, South Carolina. Courtney also mentioned Memphis would be a good spot. Yes, that's a good spot for them. If you're going to take over Tennessee, get Memphis as well too. They'll help the basketball profile. All right. Like I said, I don't think Texas is the right move because Texas is going to command a lot of attention. All right. If you're going to stay in the Texas situation, why don't you go to Baylor? Why don't you go TCU? I just don't touch the diva that's Texas.
I don't. Well, you want the diva in the room because they bring in the revenue. And at the end of the day, football-wise, they're so bad at defense, they'll get crushed regularly and be humbled quickly. So I don't think it's half the issue as you described, but I understand your concern.
It's a financial battle. Basically, this is basically like Jeff Bezos in the space race. All right, everybody wants to get to space, and Jeff Bezos did it. SEC wants everybody, but Texas wants Alabama's attention, but ain't willing to give up Texas's money. All right, and yes, Kyle, we all want to see Alabama kick Texas and Oklahoma's throat in every single year in football. I'd pay to see it. Kyle, before we go, any shout outs? You know what? What's on your mind? Before you go, what's on your mind this week?
Oh, gosh, we definitely hit the big part of it, but I'll go ahead and say it. So listen, UCF fans, let's have a talk. This doesn't mean they're going to the Big 12 either. But I heard a very interesting concept. If indeed the Big 12 is affected and Texas and Oklahoma both leave, perhaps there's an opportunity to expand the American Athletic Conference with former Big 12 teams. Just a thought.
Listen, you can't get worse. Listen, you add the Big 12 schools and kick out South Florida.
I mean, listen, everybody needs a Vanderbilt, but then again, USF isn't even academic, so I got nothing for you.
I mean, I guess they're the great value Vanderbilt. The Aldi version of Vanderbilt.
Danny Thompson.
Basically, the flavor aid to Vanderbilt's Kool-Aid when it comes to drinking.
I mean, I'm here for it. I just didn't think you were going to keep it going like that.
I mean, South Florida's like Tampico. All right.
You leave Tampico the bleep out of this, you son of a...
Tampico's trash. All right. So let's get what's on my mind right now. And what's on my mind right now is, all right, he didn't win the finals. All right. I get it. Chris Paul fell short once again. He fell short. Yes, he fell short. All right. Whatever the situation is, I'm not going to blame. Chris Paul had a hand injury, but that's not the excuse. All right. They didn't win. All right. They got outplayed. There are reasons why they lost. But even though he did not win the championship, can we stop throwing Chris Paul under the ringer at this point? All right. The man's a Hall of Famer. All right. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer. Yes, he's good. He's going to be in the class of Charles Barkley and Karl Malone and players like that who never won a championship, Allen Iverson, the greats of the greats who never won a championship. He's going to be in that boat. But let's not slander this man any longer. All right. He didn't win. Not every player that's a great player wins a championship. It does happen. Guys don't win championships. It is what it is. All right. It's a sad thing to see people dragging Chris Paul because Chris Paul is a top 10 point guard in the history of basketball. And unfortunately, Kyle, he will never join the top 5 because he does not have that championship bling. But that doesn't discount the future, the career Chris Paul's had. And no, they will not get back to the finals again. And yes, it was not fluke, but it was very, very wonky. All right. Injuries happen, Kyle, like you mentioned before, but let's think of this. Name a championship team that didn't have to go through injuries in the last few years. Lakers did it. Lakers absorbed a lot of injuries from other teams to get to the finals. The Raptors, the Warriors got hurt in the finals.
Oh, no, they themselves didn't get affected by it.
I'm just saying, but teams that won championships, Kyle, had to
factor. Yeah.
They went through teams that were injured. The Warriors were injured. What was it? 2 years, the year previous to that? What was it?
involving the Warriors and LeBron with Cleveland, certainly injury was a factor all over.
I mean, the first year they beat the championship, they both Kyrie and Kevin Love both got hurt.
Yep.
I mean, the year they got to the finals, Kyle, every point guard they played their first championship year all got hurt. Every freaking one of them on the way to the finals. Sometimes Kyle just takes luck. It just takes a little bit of luck on their side, and the Bucks just somehow beat the luck. But stop dragging Chris Paul, y'all. All right, he's still a Hall of Famer first ballot. Kyle, before we go any shouts, because we're over 5 minutes tonight.
Hey, listen. Find my stuff at the Student of the Game on Twitter. Find me on Facebook as the same, the SOTG. Check out my work with Hilarity by Default on YouTube with my good friend Demosthenes Euclid. And of course, I work with Captain Chris Hill, the Captain and Company Morning Show on oldschool101.com.
Big shouts to everybody in the chat tonight. Also, big shouts first and foremost to all our guests that were in the building tonight. Travis Holmes from Big Cat, formerly known as Big Cat Country, Mike Patton, another 3-point conversion, Dalton Tinkenberg from Sports HQ, also Patrick. Yeah. I'm sorry. What was it? Kyle, I messed up.
Blue HQ's Sports Media Pass.
Yeah, Blue HQ Sports Media Pass. I'm sorry, Dalton. Don't beat me up. Also, Patrick Creighton, like I said, you can check out on Kyle's podcast, The Student of the Game, coming up very soon on
97.5 Late Hits with Patrick Creighton on 97.5, 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern.
Don't worry.
Jetic, listen, man. Very cool guy.
Yeah, don't forget Kyle's podcast will be available. All types of media will be produced pretty soon. Like I said, can't wait for his new show. Also, big shouts to everybody in the chat. Cortland, Mike, Travis, Darrell Wilson, my main man over there. Up top. Darrell Wilson up top. Ted Hicks for usually stopping by for his one comment. Always trying to crack jokes. Also, we didn't miss Rodney tonight. There was no Rodney tonight on the day of Clemson Media Day. I'm disappointed. I'm going to call him. But big shout out to everybody who stopped, shared, tagged, and shared the show, and all the people who loved it, who are a part of this broadcast. So, like I said, Kyle and I will be back. This time it'll be Wednesday of next week. Reason being, the NBA draft is Thursday, and I got draft duty. So we will be on Wednesday night getting ready for the NBA draft. Hopefully, we'll have some NFL news. We'll also get into our next set of NFL topics, our next division, or our next set of our beat writers across the world. Like I said, we'll talk about whatever happens in the Olympics as well, too. So, for myself and Kyle, once again, get ready for the Olympics. Cheer for your favorite country, and please stay at home because COVID's real. For myself and Kyle, stay safe out there. We'll see you guys next week. Much love, y'all. Peace.